I'd like to call to order the July 27th, 2022 Townsend Conservation Commission meeting at 7:05 p.m. Can I get a roll call attendance, please?
Linda?
James Gates present.
Alan Queer here.
Kevin Smith here.
And Colby Streeter here.
Meeting is being recorded. Is anyone else recording? Chairman's additions and or deletions. I'm going to remove 3.6 vote for officers because we do not have everyone present. Try again next meeting, and just a reminder that site walks are typically Wednesdays, and site walks that have hearings, it's strongly recommended that the commission attend. So that's all I have. 1.5 review, approve the meeting minutes from 6:22 and 7:13:22. Everyone have a chance to review?
Yeah, there was one on from 7:13 regarding Scales Lane, and it states that the hearing was that it was continued, and it says to 6:27 versus 7:27.
Good catch.
Yep, I can fix that. Good catch, Ann. Sorry about that.
It's okay. Like that.
Okay.
6:12 were fine. 6:22 were fine.
Would you mind just saying that you're here and
Yes,
joining us at 7:07?
Pat Summerall, and I'm here for the meeting tonight at 7:07.
Thank you. We're discussing meeting minutes from 6:22 and 7:13:22. So if you have any feedback.
So,
Actually, Matt, I found a typo, under 4.3.
Okay.
It's towards the end and you have town chapter instead of town charter.
Town charter. Okay. I will fix that.
What was that? Which one was that on? That was other than what 13?
7:13.
7:13.
Yeah. Other than that, they look fine.
Yeah.
Linda?
Nothing. Do you want me to make a motion? to accept the
Whoever,
minutes?
someone needs to make a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from 6:22:22 and 7:13:22 with the recommended changes from Ann and James.
I didn't check with Kobe. Kobe, did you have anything to add? Sorry.
Damn it. Oh, yes, I do not have anything to add there.
Need a second?
I'll second.
Second? So we need to do a roll call.
Pat Summerall, yeah.
Linda Mack, yes.
James Gates, yes.
Alan Queer, yes.
And I must abstain from that because I was not a member at the time.
And Colby Streeter, yes.
One 1.6 agents report. Hi, Jessica.
Hello, everyone. All right. My report this one covers stuff July 11th to July 22nd. Building permit interdepartmental signatures for 20 Burgess Road, 8 Woodland Drive, 63 Gilchrist Road, 18 Maplewood Drive, 18 Woodlawn Drive, 43 Maplewood Drive, 24 Old City Road. We completed 2 referrals, 256 Main Street and 24 Old City Road. No Board of Health interdepartmental signatures were required. The RDA for 46 Emery Road, the Rod and Gun Club, tree cutting for safety concerns, that was put on hold back in March. Still on hold. I did follow up with them on July 18th, requesting their withdrawal of the application, but I've not heard back. Request for OOC extension for 27 Scales Lane still continued. We are now only awaiting one of the compliance items. Another one was already fixed. The request for COC for 63 Adams Road was issued on July 13th. We have an intake for an RDA, which you'll be discussing tonight, for 15 Tyler Road. We had a site visit last Wednesday, July 20th. I visited 3 properties for building sign-off permits for wetland boundary location versus where the pool is proposed. That was 63 Gilchrist, 18 Maplewood Drive, and 18 Woodland Drive. I went through and added some comments to the bylaw sections 138-1 and -2 that we'll discuss tonight. We had an intake for an NOI for 6 Shirley Road as a DEP of 3080692. The legal ad was submitted this week. Public hearing is going to be held on August 10th. I sent out the appointment letter for Conscom to Kevin Smith. I sent out a notice of no vacancy letter for Jim LeClaire. And we initiated a request for minor modification of the OOC for the rail trail. But after our site visit on July 20th, the application for 2 items, the application for the parking lot is deemed incomplete at this time and will be refiled at a later date. They needed a lot more information. And then the application for bridge improvements is going to be filed as a separate NOI from the Historical Commission. And that's all.
Is it the Historical Commission or the Historical Society?
Oh,
Society.
I
'Cause that's their
think the
property,
society.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, society. Thanks, Mike.
They're very different.
There's so many of these clubs and towns and I can't keep track of them all.
All right, so we're holding off on 27 Scales for.
Yes, yes, they did. He did put the straw bottles back in. And they're still trying to figure out if and where the order was recorded with the Registry of Deeds.
Okay.
Great, good work.
No hearings or appointments tonight. Works. What?
Don't we have a hearing?
That's next time for 6 Shirley Road.
Tyler Road?
That's. No, it's.
Someone's here.
Work session. Yeah, it's just work session.
Oh,
Sounds and wetlands bylaw.
Oh, I thought it was Tyler Road with pool or
It
something.
is. It's not. They don't file the DP.
Oh, okay,
Just a little over with it.
okay. But there is an appointment for that.
So do you think that some of these are being
No, I thought
miscategorized?
for some reason, I was walking up the stairs. I thought we had a hearing. but
I did
probably-
kind of jump the gun on the site visit for that one because I won't be here next week.
Okay.
So I wanted to get it out of the way.
So it's an appointment though, at least, right, to talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Sounds good to me.
All right.
So, okay, we'll figure it out. We'll
Fine,
figure it
I
out
just-
outside the meeting, but I think that's a very good point.
Yeah.
Um,
Is it an RDA?
we've-
No, the determination to book ability.
yeah.
It was a request for.
No, it's an RDA.
Oh, it is an idea.
Yeah.
It's not, not listed. as
Well-
an idea.
So 3.1, we need to continue to 8:10. So, need it, just someone motion and second it.
I make a motion to, revisit 27 Scales Lane, TWB 2019-156 until our next meeting on August 10th.
We have a second.
I'll second that.
Roll call vote, please.
Pat Benoit, yes.
Linda Mack,
James Gates, yes.
And McQuarrie, yes.
Colby,
Colby, yes.
moving on. 3.2, TWB 2022-132, 15 Tyler Road. Request for determination of applicability for the installation of an in-ground pool within 100 feet of the wetland. Gary McQuaid with Matley Pools is here to discuss this, and Jessica can give us her input after he presents what he needs to.
You got a copy of the plan?
yeah, I have. It's not a copy of the plan.
It's not an actual plan, it's the original house plan.
And it was for 1997. So
Perfect.
25 years ago.
I know the math is getting worse.
Fifteen Tyler Road.
Got one. Got one. About
We're all gonna use it.
that? Well, sharing is fun.
There you go, Gary.
You want to present?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. This is Gary McQuaid from Matley Pools and Spas. We've contracted to install an in-ground swimming pool at 15 Tyler Road in Townsend. The pool is a 16 by 36, fully in-ground. It's placed in a position where it's as close to the septic and leach field as possible, so you can no longer go any further away from the wetlands buffer zone than we have it set right now. It's also in a position where it's on top of a retaining wall, so movement of the pool would be extremely difficult to attain. So it is within the 100-foot wetlands buffer. We are proposing to install it. We can install straw walls or any other retention necessary as required by the town to expedite the process and make sure that there's no infiltration of silt into the wetlands area. We do feel we are, a good distance away, and we will keep our piles away from the area and all that. We are very familiar with the installation of pools in these types of conditions, so we will continue to monitor this and make sure that there's no issues with the wetlands. That's really all I got.
How far away from the wetland are you?
We measured, I think 90 feet, 90 plus feet away from the wetlands.
Yeah, they were pretty
You're
close.
You're only 10 feet into the wetland buffer zone?
Yes.
And on the plans, did you address when you have to drain the pool, where it will go and the drainage of that?
I can, we have, that we do have control over, so we can divert the drainage away from the
Away from the
wetlands.
wetlands, yeah, that would be good.
My contention, as far as the swimming pools go, is that the water is, we're not using the diatomaceous earth filter. So the water that would be discharged from the filter is extremely clean and not toxic with high concentrations of chlorine at all. So
What do you use the dietitian says?
we're not,
You're not.
So
no.
what do you use?
It's a sand filter.
Okay.
So the water gets backwashed through the sand filter, and just the debris that came from the pool gets discharged with a good amount of water out the discharge of the filter. So
Okay.
no other- no other-
Salt water.
They have a salt water capability. I believe they are going with salt water, but the salt water concentrations, the salinities are anywhere between 27 and 3,400 parts per million. So they're very low in salt water pools, and that also reduces any chlorine residual as well. Because with the saltwater pool, you're not building chlorine or dissolving chlorine in the water, so there'd be no chlorine discharge.
Is that a larger plan that you're
Yes.
holding? I forgot my
Absolutely.
glasses, so I'm not
No,
seeing
that's the-
what's happening here.
Yeah.
What you mean?
No worries.
Um,
So here's the road.
here's the
The
road.
driveway, this is gonna be the access to here. Around the retaining wall, right?
And where's the buffer zone?
This is the 50 foot right here. But we
So
met,
the work, the actual, like driving in to do the work is within 50 feet of the wetlands? No?
No, the 50-foot really starts at the
You said
vegetated area,
it's
or the,
fine.
so Jessica did not observe any wetlands in here. Gave us a little note. We observed wetlands in here. It was an intermittent stream. The
the
hydrology.
outside of the
But the original plan had wetlands there, right?
Right.
So you're rated at 100? You rated 100 there? Or you're
With the
looking
pool where
at- with the
it belongs.
pool?
Where's the 100-foot line? Is that this here? No,
And
that's.
it's from 97, so it could be 4.
I think her location was pretty close to the original.
Can you tell me where the 100-foot line is on this? Because I can't.
So this was in a plan that we did for the pool.
So that's
It's
what
just
line.
the
But that's what they're using.
Yeah, 100
I
foot
mean, if
line
they
is,
want to do a different plan, they can create a different plan.
100 foot line is very right here. Right? Almost through the middle
But
of
is
the
it
pool.
shown on this plan?
It is not. This just shows a 50 foot.
That's what-
This
You want
one's
to pull
There
that?
is-
I gotta
There is
take
the
it. I'm gonna
100
pull it
foot
here.
buffer.
Should be
on the
on that
plan.
plan. Should be.
Oh, right here, but it doesn't, okay. So there's,
Looks to me
shows
like
a little
walks
bit
right up to the
here.
corner.
Yeah,
but it doesn't show anything over here.
so it doesn't have a continued line,
It doesn't.
100-foot buffer right
Mhm.
here. And it goes like here.
It kind
and
of
it
stops
kinda
there.
Stops there.
Does it go around? Is that it?
So, is there any way we can have a plan, an updated plan? So that we can see what you're,
I mean, the homeowner can
Okay.
request a surveyor to come do an as-built. That's the only plan that's submitted to us, and it's the only plan they have in their possession.
Would
it's
be the
just
best
hard to
one.
know what to do here, because it would look like the 100-foot buffer goes by
It just-
this.
it looks like it just
it'd
skirts-
be in
just
50
skirts it.
feet,
Looks like it just skirts it to me.
but it doesn't show the buffer zone all the way.
Well, that's been always because they put a septic plan right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
That's what,
It's showing the 50. And if you pull out with the tape, you can find it that it's just kind of skirting the pool. I think at 90, if Jessica and you took a look at it and it appears to be about 90 feet, 95 feet. That's kind of what I'm saying.
but on this plan, it doesn't show.
It is in the 100-foot.
It doesn't, no, but if by what you guys are saying, it's 5 feet in the wetlands,
It's from the measurement we did that day.
but,
They did
The
that.
excavation is gonna be clearly.
but the plan is saying this is the 100-foot wetland buffer zone. And it's going like this. Now it ends there.
Yeah, but no, it comes down like this.
How do you know that one? Is that it? That's the
Yeah.
line?
And push it closer.
That's why I was
180,
wondering if there's a way they could show a plan that actually
Right here.
shows,
Like this,
I mean, they would have
goes
to,
like
contact
this,
the surveyor.
and like this.
if that's
Same.
true,
That would take a lot.
this is it, then that's not 5 feet.
Take a lot.
That's a lot more money.
This is the 150 foot though.
This is 100-foot.
100 foot. So we checked the hydrology of the soil where we checked, which was inside the woodland line down into a swale that you took a couple test holes or not cores, but probes, right, Jessica?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, there was a pretty defined channel. I'm trying to remember the vegetation that we saw. I think sensitive fern. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I can't remember the vegetation, but it was like fact wet veg. But again, it was very topography driven. It was pretty well channelized. So we took the point because it's a straight line, and as you can see on this plan too, which obviously is old, so we can't 100% rely on this.
Right.
Flags, 12 down through 15 are pretty much in a straight line. So that's going to be your closest point to where the pool is. So that's where we located the boundary of the stream or the wetland or whatever it was. And
Oh,
then
you're saying
measured with,
You did the wetland delineation then? When
no,
you were
I
there?
did not. No,
You got, it's
I
just
don't know.
hard to
It
know.
looks like B and C associates. But again, I do want you guys to remember that this project was flagged when I was doing a building permit sign off. So it's very atypical that when someone applies for a building permit, they have an up-to-date wetland permit. And it's very lucky that we get an RDA application with wetlands even shown on a plan. I don't think that's very normal for us to get. So it's not a requirement to have wetlands. We've done a lot of RDAs for tree removal, other, installation of sheds or something with no delineation, no map. So I think because we were out in the field and we measured with one of those,
Yeah.
what are they called? The rolly tapes. That's not it, but it was a little over 90 feet away. So, and then access would probably be between 50 to 70 feet away. I would guess.
So to me, it would be helpful to have a plan, even if they worked off of this, to have something so we could see that where the delineation is and that kind of thing. It's just, so when you're signing off on, yes, this is, this is what we want to do, we're going to give them a permit to do this. It'd be nice to have, even if it's hand drawn, but this is very confusing, this plan. I just find it confusing, but, so it'd be nice to have at least a hand-drawn plan that says, okay, they're 90 feet, and I mean, to me, that's important for me to put my name on the permit, whether it's an RDA or something.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well,
I
so
mean,
ju-
you can all vote to do it, and then I'll just not do it. I'll put my name on it. It's fine. Not a big deal.
Make sure we protect the wetlands.
Yeah. And are there conditions that they, you're gonna put hay bales up or whatever the barriers are?
wattles.
Well,
Oh, we had already stated that.
Yeah, we can put those in the conditions, that's fine. Like I said, we've done this many times in the past. And
Yeah.
comfortable with the conditions we need to obtain.
So Jessica, what's your input on this before we open it up to questions from other commissioners?
I mean, I would rely more on our July 2022 field investigation than a map this old. I don't even think this has a scale on it. So it's hard to know if the wetland flags that are present on this map over on the left side of the page are what we found too. I mean, we could have found a newer stream channel. We don't know what the scale is in between the woods, the edge of the woods line and the wetland flag line. But given what we found in the field, there's definitely no wet area closer to the pool. So with it being 90 plus feet away, and with the measures Gary was talking about with the straw wattles and draining the pool. I mean, DEP, this is an exemption for DEP if it's outside of 50 feet. So I think we're very close to 100 feet. So I wouldn't see that it would have any significant impact.
Yeah.
on
I'm
the
not saying
wetlands
that
there.
it would have significant impact. I'm just saying when someone files something, it'd be nice to have something that's clear, right? So that when we give our signature and we say, yes, go ahead and do this, which we're going to do, that we're signing off on something that's, I mean, that plan is old, as you said, it probably doesn't even show. So maybe not even show, have that be part of the submission for the RDA, but just a drawing or something. I don't know.
were the hydric soils pretty well defined when you probed your way down through, Jessica?
Not really. They're borderline. They're still pretty dark. I mean, they're grayish, but pretty dark.
but they were
But
clay.
they were out at 90 feet-ish.
Yeah, it was a pretty defined channel, maybe 3 to 4 feet wide. Smaller, gravelly type rocks.
Oh, okay,
Clay,
thank you.
it was clay soil and it
Yeah, it's still, quite till, it
right.
doesn't get gravelly till you get down on that corner. Like 700-800 feet down the road.
Pat, do you have any questions or?
No, I was just thinking about it, and listening, but, it sounds like, at least at that, the 90 feet, so. I think it's okay.
Linda, do you have anything to add?
No, I just, as a process of administration, it'd be nice to not accept something like this during RDA and just have a hand on where it's a little more accurate. Because it's hard to, for someone who, I didn't go on the sidewalk, but, because I wasn't able to, but it's hard to,
Yeah.
I mean, I trust you guys. I know it's 90 feet. I know it's not anything significant, but it'd be nice as an administrative process to have.
Isn't there an
something.
exemption for pools, like we said, at over 50, right?
Right.
Am I correct?
Exemption from DEP.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not our bylaws though.
And I'm just talking process, just when somebody submits an RDA, just if we could ask them to at least do a drawing so that we have some sense of what it's worth.
Um,
Well
Here.
said.
Gary, the parts per million, what's that percentage wise?
Oh, that's 0.01.
That little?
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice system. It doesn't run on much at all.
Yeah.
Average residential chlorinations range is 1 to 3 parts per million. So 0.0001 to 0.0003 is what you'd see for a concentration of chlorine in a residential pool. Commercial is much different. Residential is definitely when we deal with a salt chlorine generation system. It's not even actually chlorine in water. It's being dissolved. It's sodium chloride being converted to sodium hypochlorite, which then converts back to salt and chlorine gas. So it's a much cleaner system as well.
I just asked because the brine that,
Ration softeners are much different because they
Well, no, but it's essentially brine that's going to get discharged because there's still salt and it's just not a high concentration, and the compaction of the soil that comes from salt or sodium chlorides or just chlorides in general.
Well, we have two.
But if it's that little,
Yeah, it's very small.
Yeah.
Well, saline solution, 6,000 parts per million, and ocean water is 25,000 parts per million. So we're talking very small concentration. And we do have the option, like I said, discharging in the opposite direction. Or even we have cartridge filter available. I'm not a fan of cartridge filters because they are more maintenance, but that's also available as well for systems, for situations where you're getting too close to, wetland situations or places you don't want to discharge. Diatomaceous earth is the absolute worst for discharge because it does put out diatomaceous earth, 5 to 7 pounds each discharge. So we never deal with those systems. Salt, sand, or cartridges are the ones that are more safer for the environment, and you can always, like I said, with the sand filter, you can always divert it in different directions as well.
So where are you proposing to
discharge.
discharge?
Discharge toward the road.
Towards the road?
Road is up front here, so we
Yeah.
go that direction there.
Okay.
This is kind of uphill, so that would be difficult.
Yeah.
But this is definitely down towards the road.
Okay.
Ann, you have anything to add, thoughts, questions?
Now, see how it's so far away from the wetland area? I would have had a problem with that.
Well, the other question I had, Gary, was your spoils pile Obviously, you're gonna put it up on the backside, but where do you plan on getting rid of it on the property?
So if we have issues with location on property, we do take it off-site. We'll, determine a location for it. Our excavator does have areas that he has, still needed type of stuff, so.
You're gonna need some of it for grading
Right.
in there as well, which is gonna get up
But
a lot of it.
given the circumstances of location, I mean, we're gonna be limited to where we can leave it, so, hauling out may be the option.
Evan, do you have
Yeah,
any?
you're probably only gonna have a couple loads in, you're gonna have a couple extra loads anyway.
Right.
What is it, a 1636?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not much of a hole.
No.
We do have to build up on one side too.
Yeah, that's what it looks looking like here,
Um,
but it's not, there's no impact there that I can see. Based on the scale
Yeah,
of,
just
and
saying.
what Jessica's saying about the hydric soils, I believe that to be pretty accurate based on me scaling it, so. I don't have any question, I'm okay with it. I'll put the wattles in, stake them in good, and any spoils piles, it's gonna be maybe on the lower side of the pool, being down with a hoe bucket.
Yeah.
Try to back them down good, so less chance of any runoff, we get heavy rain.
Yeah, well, we can also cover the spoils if we see rain coming.
We'll
But
get her
it
done
means-
quick enough, hopefully the rate we're going, won't
Won't
be
have any
having
rain
any
at all,
rain.
no.
Oh, God. And then when we have it, it's such a downpour.
Yeah, we recompact it when we build around the pool.
Yeah,
Just
oh,
get it
yeah,
ready for
yeah.
the next,
Yeah.
you
You gotta get compacted to get ready to pour, so, yeah, I'm all set, that's
But,
pretty.
silt sock, is that approved? Silt sock?
You didn't study wattles?
Well, I have a company that does the silt sockets.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Bark mulch and just
Yeah.
take that and down,
That's fine.
come out and do it. for
Wouldn't you
them.
want the biodegradable, wouldn't you want to use the biodegradable ones? As long as I'm okay to use them.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah, those, well,
Year
cut
end
them
or-
open, you do it all along the wood line, cut it open and.
Yeah.
Right.
You don't have to worry about them.
Yeah, I think that's, I mean, we've done them in the past.
When you're all done, kick the stakes over and leave
Yeah,
Colby, do you have any
organic matter, future organic matter.
Exactly.
any questions, comments, concerns?
No, I guess I was a little confused by the map as well. I see it, I'm looking at one from 1997,
Yep,
and it looks pretty close to the 50-foot
Right.
border to me. The 50-foot wetland buffer, excuse me. But you said on the site visit that it was closer to 90 or 95 feet.
My pool drawing may not be to scale.
Okay.
It's not.
that's what I just
Maybe
said.
Olympic size.
Should have better
plan.
maps than that.
Yeah,
No,
that's why I was asking you, because I put it down, it didn't scale out, but
Yeah.
when I scale off the edge of wet, after Jessica had checked the hydric soils, I'm coming up around 90, 92 feet,
That's what
so,
we measured.
you're off a little bit with your scale, I'm still 90 plus, so. You'll be all right.
I don't have any concerns other than that. Thank you.
Jessica, do you wanna just read off what you wrote in your recommendation note?
Yes, sure. Let me pull it up. All right, my recommendation is a -3 determination with a special condition to install straw wattles at least 10 feet from the tree line. If that leaves enough space to get equipment in.
So can we add to the conditions about the drainage going
Yeah.
not towards the
Yeah.
wetland, but within the wetlands?
Yeah, just note that the determination of applicability is only good for 3 years. So if you want to do drainage in perpetuity, use a word like that.
Yeah, definitely. But in perpetuity doesn't use less, so.
Mhm.
What else? Did you want anything else?
Instead of straw wattle, you
Yeah.
can just do
Yeah.
silt sock, which is fine.
Yeah.
I don't have anything to add. So we need a motion and a second.
I'll make a motion to, did you say number 3? Just
Negative.
negative 3?
Yes, -3.
with the two conditions that we mentioned in the minutes.
Second,
Roll call vote, please.
Pat Pillow, yes.
Linda Mack, yes.
James Gates, yes.
Pam Leclerc, yes.
Kevin Smith, yes.
Colby Streeter, yes.
Jessica, what's your time frame with you being on vacation next week?
I will get all these ready for you guys for signatures in the mailbox this Friday morning. And then we'd like you to, Matt's still here next week, so we'd like you to come in by next Wednesday morning to sign these documents so that we can mail them out early Wednesday afternoon and beat the USPS pickup. So that's our turnaround deadline is Wednesday.
Does that work for you, Gary?
And then Gary, do you want the original document mailed to you or should that go to Carolyn?
Oh, Carolyn, that's fine.
Okay, I'll email you a PDF, or I'll have Matt email you a PDF of it.
Perfect, thank you.
All right. 3.3, update on Town's Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 138-8, discussion with Town Council. I assume someone.
So I met with him last night. I was going to write up a little summary today, but unfortunately I wasn't able to get to it today, sadly. But it was basically, I know we had some questions about bonds, so I basically just asked them a few simple questions about it. We had a question where we wanted to determine how we determine the amount. And Adam said typically the applicant would come with a supply cost estimate. And typically he sees like 10 to 25% of that would be the bond. He also mentioned that we have other options, not just bonds. We can put into a cash account. We can have a letter of credit from a bank. We can have a covenant. And typically, or a lot of times, applicants will do like a combination of multiple things. Because if it's a $2 million project and they don't want to have, $200,000 in a bond, they can write a covenant for like 1.5 million of it, and then they can get a bond for the remaining 500,000. Typically, he only sees it for really huge projects like shopping malls or huge subdivisions. Let's see what else. Once the Conservation Commission and the applicant decide to do a bond, they would come up with very specific language that says the applicant would do this, this, and this by this date, or the bond will be forfeit. And then we would go to Adam. He would review it, and then we would go to a bondsmith, who would charge a small fee. And then the other question is, if there's a violation, it's very simple. If it's a bond or if it's a cash account, the bondsmith would just write us a check. Or if it's in the account, it would already be in the town account, so we would seize it. If it gets a little more complicated when it's a covenant or a letter of credit, we'd have to go after the banks to cover. But typically, that's how it's done.
Good. That's great information.
I don't know if you guys have any other questions.
Have there been any large development projects in Townsend in the last 15 years?
No, that would require that. I think probably since the golf course.
They had, the last one that I know with the bond was Coppersmith Way over, I think it's off Highland.
Correct.
Yeah, that's
We
true.
actually bought that in there and sold it right off. Short time later, and there was a bond on that. I believe the town.
Yeah.
The town took the bond money, but it was not nearly enough.
Right.
Jessica, isn't there an outstanding OOC for Smith?
Mhm.
What's in the bridge?
For that development? I didn't think so. I feel like I looked actually, and I think they got a COC. They still have their DEP sign up though, because I did drive by, but I want to say they got a COC.
And there's no large projects in the future that we're knowing about, right?
I don't know that there's at what point do you classify a project as a large project? I mean, is it gonna
Right.
be a 5 lot subdivision or a 10 lot subdivision, something that's gonna require road work?
Right,
I could see something like that.
like Copper Smith or what's
Yeah,
that road?
something like Coppersmith, where,
I'm just sure you mentioned road work, so.
We're pretty familiar with that.
But
Yeah,
it's also,
but there's none on the horizon.
No,
No,
no.
there's nothing happening.
but it's also contractors too. I think it should be tied to it. There's
it should be.
contractors that don't have the best name or reputation or,
Well, I can agree with you there.
um, just, yeah,
A bond amount should be set, either cash or performance bond.
Yeah.
Or something. We self-bond our stuff, but it's just how we do it.
Yeah. So he said 10 to 20% of the total project.
Yeah, 10 to 25 is what he usually sees.
but so that's what he usually sees, but we don't have to follow that.
No,
No, we set any amount.
it would be up to the Conservation Commission. We have a lot of leeway with how it's written
The
in the
number, you can
security.
set a number based on the cost for wetlands remediation work.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
From a conservation
That would
standpoint,
make sense.
you can set a number. You went in or I went in, somebody had to go in and clean up this mess, what would it cost them?
It has to be high enough that they want
It has to be
that
high
money
enough
back.
that- Yeah. It has to be a high enough number, so they're gonna come back and do it, rather than leaving the money on the table.
So is it mostly like a planning board that would do this for the roadway?
Yep.
Did you
Yeah.
say? Does that
It
make
falls
sense to
more-
me?
Mike and, yeah,
Roadways
planning
and-
board sees it a lot more often. Yeah, Mike's nodding his head.
Unless there's a huge,
It really is,
crossing of a wetland or something, then maybe we would get more involved. And maybe we would work mostly with the planning board.
And it's possible for the planning board and the Conservation Commission to both have separate bonds. That is, he has seen that before
but that falls under.
on the same
plan-
project.
It all falls under the planning board's jurisdiction. Of course, on the board, I suppose, if they're involved on the earth removal or whatever,
Right.
that's zoning. For
That would only
planning
be
for-
if there was. a-
Planning for stormwater management.
Yeah. So
I'm
still
I'm
planning
just
board.
thinking that you get, like I said last meeting, order of conditions that are tied to, say, an easement. You want them to complete,
Right.
to file for the COC and not forget about it.
Yeah,
So that we're not in the pickle we're in now, where we have years of stuff that just went by the wayside.
yeah. And the golf course is a good example of that, where it was permitted.
It was a large
It
project,
was a
that covered
huge
100
project.
acres or whatever it
And
was.
then, I think, remind me, Kevin, if you remember this, it was. Anyways, they went belly up and then we had storms, one right after the other, and all of the
Fines went into the
lines
wetlands.
went into the wetlands. I mean, it was a mess. So a situation like that, I can see where there's a lot of potential for wetland deterioration.
But
And it's a large project.
there probably, was there a bond set for that project back
I
then?
don't know.
I
There
don't
could
know
have
if
been.
Townsend did it or
Might
anything
have.
else, There was a bond set for that Coppersmith project. However, probably not nearly enough, but
We might have learned from them.
yeah, could have,
Yeah.
and it's, but A&R lots and things like that, street frontage jobs,
No,
I
there'd be no
really
reason.
can't, I really,
Right.
myself, sitting on that side of the fence as well,
Yeah,
I have a hard time seeing where somebody would want to try to
yeah,
force contract or bond for, 1 or 2 A&R lots on
no,
town frontage or a small common driveway, for example, that little common driveway that we just did down on Warren Road, I don't know.
Yeah. That's kind of what we came to last meeting, that it wouldn't be small projects like that.
Yeah, that would be some kind of an approved subdivision. or
Yeah,
else.
subdivision. Okay, that's good work.
Mhm.
That
Thank
would
you,
be
Matt.
my opinion.
We have to keep it for when that huge development comes in, or
let us
We
know
get
when you find
enlarged.
that, find the land, the parcel that we can
There's
do
really
that.
nothing left in Townsend. is there?
I think with
Right?
the amount of land that the state owns in town, the town that's under conservation,
Yep,
and the agricultural land
Yeah.
that we hold and our families and the shepherds and stuff, I don't see this gonna be any big projects coming
No.
along.
no. Good, thanks, Matt.
Good job, Matt.
So TWB chapter 138-1 and 138-2 review and discussion. Jessica, you went through this, found some grammatical errors, but
Yes. And then I went through it again and found even more errors. Every time that's why I forgot why I stopped doing this many months ago. And then when I was rereading it, I remembered. So I did add some new track changes and comments and things later this afternoon. So I apologize, not everyone was sent the latest and greatest when we emailed things out earlier this week. But we can, did everyone at least have a chance to read sections 1 and 2? I'm gonna go with yes. Okay.
1 and 2 are pretty quick, so it's not.
Yeah.
It's okay. I mean,
Did you
it's not
find
your
any-
job to know the ins and outs. That's fine. So
Do you find any additional typos or things we need to correct in there?
yeah, if you guys saw anything that I missed, of course, bring it up.
Did you said I think you said.
Did I? Oh, yes. Oh, no, I didn't find any new typos today. I just found like egregious overlooks of things.
No.
So, Hartley, can Jessica have screen sharing, please?
Is he not here?
Just left the building.
Oh, how do I do this? Uh-oh, hold on. Sorry. Hold on.
You fall asleep.
Let's see it. Can you guys see it?
I mean, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Hartley. Ghost Hartley. Yes,
You're welcome.
okay. So, section 138-1 is about the titles application. I'm not changing any of the titles, but titles application, it really talks about sort of the motive and I guess the mission statement, if you want to call that, behind our wetlands bylaw in section A. Section B, it discusses what is under our jurisdiction, which is just about everything other than a a man-made swimming pool. Section B also then starts to say if someone is going to impact one of these resources under our jurisdiction, here's the process that you start. Section C is the exemption, which is pretty much only for utility work that will not have a big substantial change or impact. Section 138-2 is titled hearing. So that's just sort of, the administrative process of getting a public hearing scheduled for the NOI, and then how the commission can issue an order of conditions when they will
Just one
approve that
second.
the work is done. So,
You'd want her to go up?
Yeah, go back up to, step back. Scroll back there for a second.
oh, I was just giving a quick summary and then I was gonna go into my comments, but
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, continue.
Yep, continue on.
going, oh, okay. So, I'm cool with A. Again, my intent for this is education for you guys, but also these are just so outdated and really confusing. just someone who's not from around here was coming to try to read our regulations and bylaws as a guide for how they need to do an application process, it's very confusing. So if a consultant or engineer isn't able to follow it, then we cannot expect that, the average resident will be able to understand this either. So one of my big goals is just to try to help it flow better, or reword slightly. I do not want to just like wipe the slate clean and start over, obviously, but just make it a little bit easier to follow and maybe try for some layman's terms. So my first comment here, land subject to flooding or inundation, that's pretty open to interpretation. Land subject to flooding is a resource area as defined by DEP. But it's not necessarily synonymous with like the FEMA 100-year floodplain or the FEMA 500-year floodplain, or areas of a 1% storm or a 10% storm. So I would recommend that over time we define what a flooding or inundation zone would be jurisdictional to the Conservation Commission. For isolated wetlands basically means that there's no hydrological connection to an upstream or downstream jurisdictional feature. So maybe there's a perennial stream or a river, we have Bixby Brook, and 300 feet away there's this little pocket of wetland vegetation, wetland soil, and water, but there's absolutely no connection back to Bixby Brook. That feature would be considered isolated. So at what point would the commission want to have jurisdiction over that isolated feature? Is it when, it's just a little 5x5 pocket, or are we talking 1/10 of an acre, 1/4 of an acre? So it would probably be good to have some research done into, what size isolated pocket of wetland actually does provide stormwater protection and wildlife habitat, and does meet some of those wetland values that we define up in section A.
Want to hear our comments yet, or do you want to go through it?
The next stuff is kind of going to go off on another tangent, so let's stop to chat.
So isolated wetlands, I think that, I'm always of the mind that vagueness can be a good thing. It can also be not a good thing. So if you have a vagueness and you're on a site walk and there's an isolated wetland with some wetland vegetation, the soils are there, and it's only 5 feet by
10 feet.
10 feet or something, and you see that it has no value per se, and you could say that, then you have the freedom to say, this is not something we want to condition or protect.
Sure.
That's the good side of being vague. The bad side of being vague is when somebody is a bit of a extremist and they're like, I'm sorry, you can't go near this little wetland area. But that's where the debate happens on a conservation commission, which I think is a good thing.
I call that the dead plow for debate.
So, I kind of lean towards vagueness just because it allows the commission to kind of look at these isolated areas. And I think that was the purpose of that originally. And to work out whether it has value or not. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a double-edged sword, whichever way you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do like the former point that you made about it, meeting some probably more subjective criteria of, one of these things up in section A that we're trying to protect, some type of wetland value. But yeah, I mean, you get a good consultant and they can immediately say, oh, well, this, that, the other thing, and
Right.
talk you off that cliff, and then they can fill it. So,
But the other thing is that in the regulations, you have the opportunity to have the definitions, right? I
Yep.
don't know that, I haven't looked at the regulations in a while, but I don't know that we have a definition for isolated wetland.
I don't think so, which is why
That's
I
that's
highlighted
another
that.
area that it supports the bylaw so that we can look at the definition to help make clarity.
Oh, can I not edit my comment? Whatever.
Karen, you had something you wanted to add?
No,
Scrolling
I'm
up.
okay. I just had to read through it again. It's kind of, I said, go back and read through it. I'm okay with that. The agricultural exemptions come up there, we're covered there.
Mhm.
So I'm okay with that.
Yeah, there is no definition.
The land subject to flooding and inundation, I'll agree with Jessica on that. It's like you say, it's a big gray area there.
I mean, it used to be that it was that if there was a land that was subject to flooding, you could see the flood line, because it had been flooded consistently enough to make a line. So I would think we would still work with that, right?
I think that would be reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, if I went out on a site, I mean, there's no other way to say subject to flooding unless
No.
there's some identifying factor.
No, I agree. I
Well,
think that's reasonable.
One of the ways is the FEMA map.
Yeah.
But
I mean, the FEMA map goes way beyond, I mean, I think, are they changing it now to 500?
I hope not.
Yeah,
They'll
so,
take anything. Yeah, I mean,
With an engineer,
100-year flood, like 500 years.
The 100-year happens every year,
with an engineer, you can also get the FEMA map changed.
right?
Yeah.
So,
Right.
'cause I did for my property.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there is no definition for isolated wetlands.
okay.
In the bylaw, I mean, in the
In
regs.
the, yes,
Regs, okay.
chapter 1.
So that might be something we try to do.
Okay. Any other comments or feedback so far?
Do you have any thoughts or anything you want to add to this?
No.
Ann?
No, good.
Colby?
I'm a slow reader, and I've read it 3 and 4 times. I'm gonna have to think about it more, to be honest.
See, and that shouldn't be the way though. So Exhibit A, thank you, Colby.
But really, I mean, what laws are easy
Yeah,
to follow?
I know, it's
I mean,
terrible.
that's just the way laws are written. They're written by attorneys and they speak a different language than a lot of us. So
Thank you for that one.
I do have
we
a
just have to work with too,
I did a little question there. I guess I'll direct it towards Jessica. Do you think that being ambiguous with the bylaw kind of lessens the value of some of the upland water resources, which would traditionally be kind of smaller, some springs and places where you find the compacted soils and
Yeah,
there's still wetland vegetation. Does that make sense?
it does, and that's a good question. Yeah, I mean, I have to go off on a little tangent here. I live in Pepperell, so obviously I've read the Pepperell bylaws and they're like 2 paragraphs and that's it. And it's so simple. And then we come to our bylaws and it's, when you print it out, it's 7 pages of just the bylaws and then 8 pages of regulations. So you start drowning when you read it. And then when you have, 75% of such excruciating detail, you know, you're like, oh, well, I have to fill in that other 25% because we're missing these little things here and there, which is where I'm at, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I'll agree with you
So-
on that one, Jessica.
But also, you know, Pepperell is a very different community than Townsend.
That's very true. Yeah.
I mean,
But,
you know, they have sewage, they have, don't they have sewage?
Yep.
They have all different, I mean, they have, yeah, I mean, we are, and I will say that it used to be a joke that, you know, when Timberley Park was put in, I wasn't here. We didn't have many bylaws or anything. And that actually catapulted this town to start to pay attention to our
We didn't zone
resources.
really until it was
Yeah.
zoning was implemented in 70.
And then as we, you know, our resource being our aquifer and our groundwater, you know, you tighten up the laws as much as you can because someone will find, those attorneys that write these laws also find little loopholes to be able to get around certain things. So town council, you know, planning board, conservation, you know, just, it starts to evolve. So you try to tighten them and clarify them. But, you know, it just, you know, all of a sudden you've got this huge,
Right.
you know, wetlands bylaw and rules and regs, so. But it was all, I think, done with good intention. It just for clarification, because people are always confused.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so you start snowballing. So, Colby, I know we didn't directly answer your question, but I mean, I think you gather our opinion enough for it. Yeah. I mean, there's, you know, uplandy things that aren't touched in our bylaws or really at all in the Townsend bylaws. Like, you know, the ACEC is barely mentioned. You know, endangered or rare species, I don't really know if they're even mentioned at all. So
The people know it's through the permit that people check it off, right? And then they have to.
right, and I mean that's it. It's a checkbox.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Fill it out and you have this, you have this.
Yeah. So how would you see us mentioning that in the bylaw?
I mean that's in that 25% that we're not covering. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm taking this a few sections at a time also to not overwhelm myself. So I don't know yet, but I mean, I think from like a state and federal regulatory standpoint, we can't just say, you know, we're going to take protection over state and federal listed species. I think that is only triggered by the filing of a wetland permit. And then, you know, if someone does not need a wetland permit, the best we can do is just strongly advise that they file with MISA. But I mean, that's, you know, that's on them at that point, and we cannot enforce it. So, I mean, we might just be in a, you know, stuck there.
Well, the MISA filing is part of the DEP package, I guess we'll call it. So,
But if you're not having any wetland issues on the property and don't need to file with conservation, it's very unlikely that anything else will trigger someone's kind heart just to file, do a MISA filing on their own.
You still depend on the square footage of disrupted area, it triggers it anyway.
Yeah.
And then you gotta get the turtle hunters out there. Well, that's what I call them. We have to hire them all the time.
And I think it works pretty well, but I mean, I can't imagine what we can say about endangered species because it is the state and they don't really tell us where they are or what they are, so.
National Heritage doesn't want.
No, they don't want us to know, so,
They don't want it publicized.
right.
Um,
So I think it worked pretty well. I can't imagine that we would be able to do anything in that realm.
Yeah. And I mean, I think this type of, you know, protocol has been in place that where it's once you file a wetlands permit, then it triggers that. I think that's been the case for a long time. So, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it type of thing.
I mean, Natural Heritage has a map, right?
Yep.
So say there's someone in an upland area of Townsend that's like clear cutting and whatever. And you look on the map and you see there's an endangered species. It's a salamander or something that's been found there, or a dragonfly.
I don't even know if the maps tell you. I think it's just an
It doesn't.
endangered
Right.
habitat.
So
or-
all you have to do as a conservation agent per se, or a commissioner, is that you call natural heritage and you say, someone is working within that habitat. We don't know what it is, but can you check it out? And they will do it. I think that's the best we can do.
Yeah, they said they're pretty good about sending people right out too.
Yeah.
And they're responsive and
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
fair. That's the
Yeah,
biggest
yeah,
thing,
yeah.
is they're
Yeah.
very
Yeah,
fair.
we've
We're
dealt with
noticing.
them on the other side of the table.
Yeah, I have too. I've done it a lot.
Yeah.
They're very fair.
Yeah.
Yep. One thing that we're finding now is they don't want anybody to know that they're different species because
They'll take them.
they'll come out,
Poachers.
people will come out and poach them.
Yeah.
Yeah, the rail trail received a letter about that.
Did they?
Really?
Yeah, we got one on a.
You know, and
job.
Townsend does have a lot of landing turtles all over the place. I mean, but we're not the only town. There's like, so you go outside of 495 and there's a lot of landing turtles, but you go within Boston, I mean, there's none. So that's where the laws are written,
Those are the urban turtles down there.
but that's where the laws are written, you know? So I always kind of laugh, you know, like they're endangered species, but not
So,
outside of 495.
Right.
you know,
Western Mass, so not so much, but.
We have a hand up.
hi, Mike.
I just wanted to chime in on this, on the endangered species side. There's an additional 2 reasons that usually you don't talk about the specifics of endangered species. One, once you mention a specific endangered species, people feel like they can debate whether or not it's significant. And under the law, it's endangered or not. So it could be an endangered turtle or endangered eagle or a grass. And most people would not go out of their way to protect a grass. I don't know if we even have any endangered grasses, but that's just in general. The other thing is when you say it's species specific as opposed to habitat, then the challenge becomes, well, if I'm out there and I don't see the species because it's the wrong time of year, I don't have to worry about it.
Right.
You know,
The
so it's-
poachers are pretty smart.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
see the fence around the jobs, they see the turtle gates, they gotta be closed in the afternoon when you close the job
Yeah.
down. Those people aren't stupid.
So just keeping it at the habitat language does make it administratively less work because you can just it's habitat. I don't need to qualify or quantify or evaluate individual species and whether or not they're actually present at this given moment. It's just habitat or not habitat, and it simplifies the process a little bit, which just in the space of this conversation, it just seems like we are having a conversation about whether or not how much we want to increase or work with the bylaws, and it would be a huge thing to try and go through. And then let's say we finished a regulation and then found out there's a whole specific species that just got discovered that's now endangered because there's been some change in designation. We have to create a whole other section. So the idea
Well
of
said,
keeping it
Mike.
Yeah.
that simplifies.
Exactly, I agree.
Well said.
I just heard monarch butterfly is now in the endangered
Yes.
species.
Yeah, yeah, I saw that as well.
Yeah, we got them in the neighborhood.
Major news.
Someone just told me that today. I didn't know that. Anyway,
All right, so we'll keep moving.
No, I won't, I'm not gonna go
you're not gonna
there.
go there? Do you have a lot of monarchs on your property?
Oh, no.
What else
We
you
have
got?
roped off areas that can't be hayed,
Oh, really?
and we understand the significance of it, so.
But it's only during certain times of year, right?
Second cut.
Second cut. So second cut,
Good
you
stuff.
can't do a second cut, or you can?
They they lock it off, but when you have a tethered or a rate that's 24 feet
24 feet
wide,
wide. And you're trying to pull the
Not
hay
that
away,
fine
you're trying to pull the hay
tuned.
away from that.
and the guy operating is what 83. Reflexes aren't as good, but you know, it is significant.
Everybody does the best they can,
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's
him included.
Yeah.
all right. What else you got, Jessica? Keep moving things on.
Yep. Next one is just, there's a typo in here of any such resourced areas. That was just the typo, I assume. So I want to delete the D. To fully describe such proposed activity and its effect on the environment, not of.
That, yeah.
There's just so many of these little things throughout that I don't know how they weren't caught before. We reference the Townsend wetland regulations, but we don't reference like what section or anything they can be found in. So I would just want to put, you know, like a hyperlink or something, or even just a reference right there.
Be good.
And then comes my general comment. So I'm gonna do this so I can read it. Matt, do you know if I click this hide discussion, is this comment gone forever, or can I see it again?
If
I
it's
believe-
resolved, it goes away.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Can I hide it? Oh, geez. All right. Well, sorry. Okay. Anyway, so down here is my comment to this. So 138.1-B, this section here, it starts discussing that if someone is proposing to do some activity in one of these jurisdictional resource areas, that they must file a written notice of his intention to do so. So that to me says NOI. And then down here it says, upon written request of any person, the Conservation Commission shall within 21 days make a written determination as to whether this bylaw is applicable to any land or work thereon. That is very much RDA language. RDAs need to have a determination made within 21 days, not NOIs. NOIs also do not address just whether or not the work is applicable to a bylaw. Or NOIs do not address that. That is the purpose of an RDA. So to me, that this section B starts explaining the NOI process and then just sort of like randomly switches to RDA. So that is just not accurate. So I would want to try to clear that up a little bit somehow.
Well, is there any way to reference in the regulations, section 150-4 procedures?
I'm sure we could. Yeah.
We haven't even touched that yet to make sure that's correct. But,
Oh, and yeah, this is a monster.
you know, you
yeah,
said
so-
it's 7 pages. Is there stuff in here that should be categorized under regulations and to clean this up? So it's more
Yeah.
simplified. And that might be easier to say than to do, but
Sure. Yeah, no, I think that's, I think Mike had some homework, he's not gonna answer today, but he had some homework to try to see what goes into a bylaw versus what would go into a regulation. So maybe once we have a clear understanding of that, and once we get through all of the sections in 138, then we can revisit that question. What might we be able to chop out of the bylaw and instead just put in as, you know, sort of guidance to chapter 150 regulations instead.
I don't want to say chop out either because you never know.
Condense.
Recategorize.
Yes, recategorize.
Yeah.
So the MACC training and handbook, they do go into that, like what goes into a bylaw and what should go into a rules.
Oh,
and
good
regs.
to know. Okay. We'll look into
Yeah,
that.
no, they're pretty clear about that, and I think
You have a little experience in that department.
but it, you know, I think that sentence that you pointed out, Jessica, is really confusing and it needs clarification. So if you want to put together a sentence that makes sense so that it's clearer, that, you know, we would have to go to town meeting for all of these things.
Right. Yeah. So go big or go home. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I have to make sure everyone.
But I like
knows
this, I like
nothing
the other,
to
keep it simple.
keep it simple, but yeah, it could be a half that size of a sentence, but just say what it's trying to say.
And
you know?
MACC also has resources from other
Yeah.
towns that can be
Yeah.
used as examples, because
Yeah.
why reinvent the wheel?
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
fair.
and whenever these, were done, we always went through MACC or, I mean, the town council has to go through them and make sure that they make sense. Clearly, they weren't looking very closely. But
Yeah. So, I mean, we could just, simplify this whole paragraph. I understand, this part up here, what's under our jurisdiction. You can't affect any of these areas without a permit from the Conservation Commission. So like we could, leave it at that. I mean, that answers the question right there. You can't alter without a permit. And then the rest of it is where it starts getting really confusing.
So
So-
why don't we leave it as, maybe you change it to what you think it should look like, have like Carly maybe review it just for a second set of eyes, or Matt.
Just real quick on the just saying without a permit and just leaving it at that is, I think you have to define how you get a permit in the
Okay.
law. You have to explain why, like, how are you able to get a permit to be approved? I think you do need that. Otherwise, I mean, you can't just, you get a permit, you don't get a permit without
Okay.
explaining why or why not.
So maybe not so much detail into like the NOI versus the RDA, but just, like file a written application
Yeah,
as an RDA or as an, list out our application types.
right.
Yeah,
And I really recommend that you look at, MACC will say one of the, they'll have a list of bylaws and regulations that other towns have that are really well done. And they'll say,
They have an extensive list.
yeah, they do. So, yeah, just like James said, we shouldn't recreate the wheel,
yeah.
Definitely keeping it short and sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I see that they tried to put so much in this paragraph here that they started with one type of application, didn't finish it, but ended with a different type of application. So,
Yeah.
anyway, moving on to section C, that is the only known exemption other than some agricultural exemptions, of course. Utility projects typically can be exempt, provided they don't have any big impacts. So I do not have any comments on those. 138-2, the hearing section. Again, just some inconsistencies between our terminology and then the DEP Wetland Protection Act for, filing and timelines for things. So CONSCOM shall hold a public hearing on the proposed activity within 21 days of the receipt of said notice. But you only need a public hearing for a notice of intent. So I'm adding in notice of intent, and that we need to hold a public hearing within 21 days once it is deemed a complete application.
Yes,
So
that's-
not just like for 21 days once we stamp it in, because we could stamp it in and read it and it's a terrible application. So
Are we allowed to do that, though? That's another thing I would ask.
allowed
I
to
think
do
somebody
what?
allowed to say what's a complete application?
Yes.
We do
Yeah,
that?
so that's it's like a simple, it's a simple checkbox
Checklist.
thing, because
Alright.
what's the section, chapter 150 regulations have defined plan requirements. So if I go through someone's NOI plan and it's missing, A, C, and F from our regulations, that's not a complete plan. We just had an application come in that said the project was not in ACEC, but it is. So I had to have them revise the application. So just Once we have sort of administratively all of our check boxes, then we can deem it complete. It's not a complete review from a, technical scientific standpoint, but more an administrative side.
You think here, since I brought up the RDA tonight, that even a drawing or something accompanied with it, do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
RDA, I just feel like,
We're looking to look at a referral.
we don't want to burden people too much because we're really kind of just
You have
making
a
sure.
simple drawing like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. And then we just go out and check it out. So maybe we reference that because I think that would help.
Would that be something you guys would want in our bylaw though? Or would we just want it, as like a
Check box on the
application
process.
checklist for an RDA?
Yeah, yeah. Same idea, yeah.
Here, just the wrong spelling of than. And then otherwise, I did not have any comments to the hearing process other than, sorry, I'm making you guys dizzy. Back up in section 138-1B, I talked about how they started off talking about the NOI submittal process and then ended with the RDA. The same thing
Yeah,
kind of happens down here. It just goes back to the hearing process for NOI only. It does not discuss the meeting process or approval or anything for the RDA. So, like we were talking about earlier, the more stuff we put into these, they can just get more confusing. So maybe we instead put just some guidance on the website or something instead. But I don't have an answer or really a good plan for that right now, but I think it would be good to see other, get MICC or get town council and get their opinion on how best to process it. Because we don't want to make our bylaws 20 pages long. So,
okay.
but yes, so that's all I had for 138.1 and 2.
That's great, Jessica.
Thank you.
Thank you. That
Yeah,
was good
thanks. That's a
work.
lot of work.
Yeah, we really appreciate that.
Thank you.
So just for everyone's reference, I have not gone through it yet, or well, I guess I did a long time ago, December, ouch. The next meeting will cover 138-3, -4. Those definitions are long. We'll do -3 through -7, but I'll send everyone an email with that.
You sure you want to do that many in a meeting?
Yeah, 7 is.
Well, this thing, yes, C7's a monster, but like 3 through 6 is right there. And I don't have any comments on it. So I think we'll probably breeze through that.
Okay.
But again, if we're at that meeting and it's just too much, we can just stop and motion to continue and pick it up at the next meeting too. So.
All right, well, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, Jess.
Thank you, Jessica.
3.5 mandatory referral notice from planning board regarding 22 Main Street. We review attached application and relay planning board comments. Applicant Sally Theater is proposing alterations to structure, driveway configuration, and addition of parking spaces at 22 Main Street to operate a veterinary hospital. This is a Best Friends Veterinary Hospital that used to be in the center of town, and she moved to that little house next to McDonald's.
Done by the harbor.
Jessica, do you have any input. I don't think there's anything in
No
there.
wetlands, there's no
No,
wetlands.
there's nothing nearby. This is, yeah, the McDonald's and the Pizza Pizzazz and Hannaford and all that's right there. So, I mean, the closest thing is probably the Squanicook, but it's like 1,000 feet away or something like that.
Okay.
So what do we have? Motion to, no comment?
No comment.
Yeah, no comment.
All right. Did we make a motion on this or?
I'll make a motion that the referral from the planning board for, is it 22 Main Street?
Yeah.
That we have no comment.
Second,
Roll call vote.
Absolutely, yes.
Linda Mack, yes?
James Gates, yes.
Tamara Quay, yes.
Kevin Smith, yes.
Colby Streeter, yes.
4.0 correspondence, Towns and Properties Committee needs a representative from Concom.
Looks like we got one.
All right.
Right,
Vice Chair of the
that's right. So we have it. That's right. So that can come off the agenda.
Come on.
Mike, did you get that?
Yeah, so it sounds like you want to, you're gonna ask that Kevin Smith be your representative on that committee, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll talk to the Properties Committee about that. Kevin is currently seated as an at-large member, so he'll have to change to the CONSCOM rep member, and then they can go look for another at-large member.
Okay.
Oh, come
Is
on.
that okay with
I've
you?
been the at-large member there for 20 years, 25 maybe.
Are
You
ready
don't have to
close it, Kevin?
Oh,
No, it's a step down, I think.
yeah, that's okay.
We'll make you the even at-larger member if that's okay. CONSCOM /
Larger.
It's all right, Mike.
Okay.
All right,
We haven't had a rep from conservation or highway for probably 20 years.
Oh, God.
can't get your nephew to?
No, no.
No, from the state regarding. ongoing drought.
Yeah, 4.2 email from state regarding ongoing drought conditions.
Went
Just,
from what, 2 to 3 now?
yeah, just good. Defer this to you.
Oh, okay. We are now in, effective last, I think Thursday or last Friday, we are now in level 3 critical drought phase. We have updated that on the website, and I believe it's going to be updated on the signs throughout town. So it's getting pretty serious at this point. So the guidance from the state is to minimize overall water use and to stop all non-essential outdoor watering. So I know for my town, at least now, you are no longer able to use your irrigation system, and you are only allowed to do hand watering outside between the hours of 7 p.m. and 6 a.m. Otherwise, there's just too much evaporation happening and a lot of water being wasted.
Is that going out from the town to all the residents, or what's happening with that?
I'm sure they've done direct mailers and
Have they?
I wouldn't assume.
Maybe with the, with our tax bills, maybe we'll put something in
Or
That's-
water bills.
there. Oh,
I think that would be a really good idea. I mean, like for my town, all they did was put a thing on the website. So unless you're, one of 3% of the people in town who look on the website, you have no idea. So,
I think a tax bill is better because it would come to me. I'm not part of the town water supply, so I
Yeah,
wouldn't get it.
but your tax bill is only quarterly too.
That's
Yeah, that's
true.
what I'm saying.
That's true.
It's only quarterly by the time,
Yeah, that's
by the
true.
time you get your next tax bill,
I
you'll
just
be
got
out of
it.
it, probably be out of it.
yeah.
Ann has something. Ann, go ahead.
What do you do, Jessica, if you see automatic sprinklers going, the drought, the time is between 7 and 5 that you can't water, but these are going during the day?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Toilet paper. I don't know. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know who the enforcement agency would be.
Water department?
Water department.
Yeah, and I mean, I know with the irrigation systems, you know, those are on for
Timers.
20 or 30 minutes only, so it's really easy to miss. And you know, you can see the water on the sidewalk or the pavement for another 30 minutes or so. But I mean, I guess if you want to take a picture and timestamp or something and send it to the water email.
Town can tell with the water meter too, right? Or no?
Townsend doesn't have separate water meters for irrigation.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Townsend has, a lot of homes and maybe some of them with outside irrigation that are on private wells.
Yeah.
This
that's
one
what I
isn't,
think.
I never.
You know, they had private wells and they switched over to town water.
Yeah.
And some of them actually have irrigation wells. I know of a couple
Yeah.
that actually have irrigation wells.
Wow.
So, I mean, yeah, I think the
A lot
first,
of my lawn, but they got a couple of them, irrigation wells.
ours is so crunchy and brown already, but yeah, I mean, I mean, you know, like anything else, like wetland violations, the first step is education. You know, you can't just go over and slap them with a fine. Because honestly, most people probably have no idea that, you know, we're in this situation.
I think that sign that's going right in the common
Yeah.
is
Excellent.
probably and down in the harbor is probably the best
Yeah.
advertisement one could have. I
That's
mean,
true.
it's sitting there looking right at you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think
Educate the people a little bit. I don't
promoting
know.
more of those, though. I mean, that's only if you're traveling around.
More. The south and from the west.
Well, you got the center and then the harbor covered. I mean, if they wanted to, the police department could move them around.
Right.
You know,
true.
move
Yeah.
them around, put one out on 13 at
Yeah.
the town line and put one up by Ambulance or something. Or up by the water department building in West Townsend to catch the people coming down from Mashpee. You know, up to that side of town, people that are traveling. I don't know, I think they work better than
They do.
anything else.
They really do. Because you read them when you go
Yeah.
back. And I
Yeah.
also think they need to clarify that it's not just people on town water, but also people on private
Everybody.
wells. We also be very conscious right now about how they're using their
Yeah.
water because it all affects your neighbor.
I mean,
Yeah.
Mike, is that something that like land use and water could send out together on like a, you know, a neon orange postcard that sticks out in your mail? Like, but it would need to be done like tomorrow, you know?
Yeah, I've already started talking to David at the water about what we can do and how we can coordinate. We've had some early conversations. You guys are absolutely right. The big thing is the whole system is strained, and it's not just if you're on a well, if you're not on a well, or anything like that. We're at the point where streams are starting to dry up, and the next level of drought is the level of drought where we have to start regulating indoor water use, and we don't want to get to that. So I don't want to be the one that's telling people you can't wash your dishes or take a shower. You know, I'd rather tell people just stop watering your lawns. And that's unfortunately where we're at. We've got those neon signs up. You guys are right. That's a great outreach tool, but you know, figuring out how to reach out. In some ways, the best is just word of mouth too. It's, you know, make sure you guys aren't watering your lawns and, you know, go talk to your neighbor in a friendly manner and just say, hey, you know, this is the thing. And you want to go tell the neighbor on the other side, do a little bit of that. So it's at the point where we really should try and do as much outreach as possible without, you know, and hopefully we can not have to get to the enforcement because that is another nightmare.
That would be a nightmare.
Good, move on. Draft of homeowner guide to wetlands from Mike Crowley, 4.3.
Yeah. So I don't know. Do you guys have that in front of you?
Yeah, I know.
You don't have a
I can't see. I mean, I can.
If not,
kind of
I can do a share screen if that's actually Hartley. Would you mind if I get a share screen just so I can share with anyone who's
Yeah, that would be
watching?
good.
Talk the really important things. And bring them up.
I'm trying to see if I can enlarge this.
Bring them up to
Education.
Correspondence.
Can you guys see my screen?
The draft. And then see this button right there? The center one, yeah, click that.
Which one you think I know first? Oh, don't you think? And then. how
So-
do we launch it?
View. Go ahead, Art.
Sure.
Okay.
So this is something, we're working on lots of this type of information in land use for all manner of things across lots of committees. While you guys are doing the hard work of looking at regs and bylaws and making them accessible, we're trying to help by trying to make it kind of more conversational, informational accessibility. So this is the first one we're going to work on. We're going to try one for different types of things, but this is the homeowner's guide. Because we do get a lot of comments and questions about what am I allowed to do, what am I not allowed to do, and just getting clarification. This is not a change of regulations or bylaws in any way. This is just kind of trying to take what is wholly encompassed in regs and bylaws and make it into something simple that could be either a handout or put on a website, just kind of a draft language of what there already is. As I said, it's kind of based to be very conversational, like comments like, good thing to remember, wetlands are where surface water and groundwater meet, which by the way, someone on the conscom said this spring, and I love that word, that expression. So any activity in your network can impact groundwater you and your neighbors drink. Now, we know there's broader implications, but it's a good simple statement to be like, okay, I now know why this is important. And then it's just a quick review of, you know, what you can do within 50 feet of wetlands, which is most is regulated. The only things you can do allowed are mowing of lawns, pruning of established landscape areas, excluding herbicide and fertilizers, and hand planting of native trees, shrubs, ground covers, turf grass. That's excluding turf grass. That's what's in our regulations for the only things you're allowed to do within 50 feet of a wetlands as a homeowner. Kind of a few more uses are added on, things you can do between 50 and 100 feet of a wetlands. Kind of just simple stuff. Again, lots of maintenance, some fencing, pruning and cutting of trees, provided that their felled trees remain on site. So kind of check this both against our regulations and the state regulations, making sure that there's nothing that was missed. And then kind of this broader, I'm scrolling the wrong way, sorry. And then other activities within 100 feet are not, you know, just underlining that these are not necessarily, if they're not listed, they're not necessarily prohibited. They simply need to ensure that you're following regulations and common sense practices. So contact a conservation agent and with questions and learn more and learn about the process to obtain a permit from conscom. So the idea is if we put this out there, folks will know, okay, this is good, this is not good, maybe engage a little bit more with us. Commonly, you'll see people who will do, to use an example, say they're doing some tree work on their property and cutting down some trees, and they want to cut down 6 trees, 5 are outside of 100 feet, and there's 1 that's inside. Now, the common thing is, I'll just get them all at once. But if a homeowner suddenly is like, oh, well, I can cut down the 5, but there's a process for the 6, maybe I'll just leave the 6 and just not deal with the process. And that helps preserve the wetlands and helps the homeowner move through the project without getting engaged in something that's hard to understand. So it's just kind of a simple informational thing. I'd love to get your feedback on it in just a general sense. Like, again, it's all designed to be very straightforward and not change anything as is. And we could figure out how we're going to use this. Maybe this could be a handout that we print out, put some contact information on, and put in the building office for them to hand out to residents when they come in for questions. Maybe it's something we use some of the language to put on our website. And then we're going to try and do one for different people. So maybe there's one that's kind of a general idea of the process for a developer, or the general idea of a process for someone doing, you know, different, it's someone doing a commercial use or things like that. And we're also doing these kind of stuff for, you'll see stuff come forward that's currently working its way through zoning and planning on kind of trying to make it a little more accessible reference tools, not necessarily any changes or anything substantive, just, oh, okay, this is kind of how it is in a clearer, easier to understand format.
Cool to guide people along.
Yep, I think it's a great
Cool,
idea.
I like it, Mike, I really do.
Yep, I do.
It's well
Yeah.
written.
Yeah.
Thank you. So this is something we're working on. Jess and Matt have weighed in. This is something we really wanted to get a lot of feedback on because, you know, once it's out there, and hopefully something as simple as this can help make the process seem less intimidating to folks. And so they're more willing to reach out with questions and make better engagement. I know sometimes people show up at land use and they're already feeling on the defensive because they're expecting some huge onerous, or agency that's going to squash them. And that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to help people work through the process and preserve what's important, but also help them understand where they can go and what their decisions and what their authority is. So.
Did
I
you make a
think this
motion?
is well done.
Yeah.
I mean,
We don't even need a
very
motion this.
informative.
No,
and,
we don't need to make a motion and put it up there, but I like it. I like it. I think it's well written.
Well, I think
I think-
it'd be good to have a motion to accept what,
The
Mike
document
has
and,
Accept the document as written.
as written and, to
I'll make
put
a
it out,
motion.
yeah.
I'll make
That's
a
good
motion to
idea.
accept that document as written to be published
Mhm.
or passed throughout the town.
I'll second it.
roll call vote then.
yeah,
Linda Mack, yes.
James Gates, yes.
Alan Quay, yes.
Kevin, yes.
It's too late.
I also, the way it's
We have
written
Colby.
is so friendly, sorry.
Yes, very
Oh, it is.
Go ahead,
It's
Colby.
so
It
friendly,
is. Nice
Yep.
job.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Unanimous.
It's an intimidating process and having a checklist of, like Jessica's already done and this, it makes it easier.
Keeping
Yeah.
it simple.
Yeah.
It's simple, it's to the point.
It's too bad they couldn't do a mailing. Time like.
Or maybe this
So
could
put it on
go
the
in the,
website, they
Put it
can
in
put
the
it,
budget
put it in
next
the,
year.
put it in the building inspector's office, they can put it in the
Right.
Conscom office.
Yeah,
They could put something,
in the tax.
obviously. Well, the problem is by the time it goes out in people's tax bills, everything's gonna be gone. I don't know if they can do a little thing on the town web page or something, or Conscom page or something, or.
We,
what do you-
we get a surprising amount of traffic of people just coming to the websites and just kind of
Yeah.
perusing. There was
think
some
that's what-
language I just happened to put on the land use page, and I was shocked how many people came forward and just said, I really like that. Thank you for doing that. That really helped, or just referenced it. So I think that this, on a handout, on a website, things like that, most people don't
Well,
even
you put it
find
out
their
on our
way
town
to
website,
code
so I think
regs.
that would be,
Yeah.
I think that would be very fitting. Well done, Mike.
Thanks, everybody.
thank you.
Thank you, good
Are
work.
we done?
Yeah, almost.
I'm gonna stop sharing here.
4.4 email from town admin to all boards and commissions. This is from Eric. I'm gonna paraphrase it. A few items that he just wants, make sure we're all on the same page. In addition to all department heads, I would appreciate it if all boards and commissions could review the fees within their purview, make sure that they are commiserate with the fees charged by other cities and towns for the same services. If there's a difference in the fees, I would appreciate it if the folks could take the appropriate steps to update the town fees. Already did it, what, 8 or 6 months ago. Maybe look at it
Very
again,
good.
in my opinion, in 6 months, but just a reminder that board and commission members should make sure that they are not communicating with each other about substantive matters within their jurisdiction outside of a posted public meeting. This would include over email or on site visits, for instance. Remember that requests for work product from staff above and beyond normal administrative items should be made by a vote of the board commission at a public meeting. Individual board members should not be making requests to staff directly outside of a meeting. Please remember to post your agendas with the town clerk. Clerk's office minimum 48 business hours, not include weekends and holidays, before the meeting time, in an effort to avoid confusion on the part of the public or of staff. Please try to keep amendments to the agenda to a minimum. It is less confusing to have a single finalized agenda posted 48 hours in advance than to have 4 or 5 different agendas posted the week before a meeting. That being said, it is also important to make sure all items to be discussed are placed on the agenda before the 48-hour deadline. These additions to the agenda during a meeting by chairperson should be reserved for emergency situations. Emergencies generally meet the following 2 criteria. 1, the matter was not known by the board in a time to meet the 48-hour deadline. 2, the matter could not be dealt with at a subsequent meeting because additions are disfavored under the open meeting law. Non-emergency items should be put on the agenda for a subsequent meeting. You get that?
There you have it.
All right,
What else? Anything else?
5.1 upcoming MACC classes. Did everyone, Jessica, did you emailed this, put this on Google Drive?
Yep.
You
Yeah.
had a quick email about it earlier, but
Yeah, so we're just gonna add a new section for education on every agenda and just print out the upcoming courses for MACC for you guys. As a reminder, we will pay, you are all members of MACC, so we will pay for you to take relevant courses or classes. We had a question earlier about which ones might be important or which ones we could not take. I guess probably the most important thing is the fundamentals for conservation commissioners. It's a certificate training program. So what that is are 5 of the level 100 units, I'm sorry, and 3 of the level 200 units. So the level 100 units are definitely the basics that we deal with for most of our applications and drafting permits and such. Level 2s are a little more, kind of elective type that might vary based on your interest level or what is really relevant to going on in our town. So we'll just start updating you guys on those
Can I
upcoming.
ask how many people have their fundamental certificate, basic, whatever it's called?
I think I have one more class.
I have on my,
You have your
I have the
certificate
certificate.
and you're getting yours.
Yeah,
I
I
have
do as
mine,
well.
but it's from 12 years ago, so
Well, that's
So
why,
good forever.
I was
it
gonna
comes
say,
back once in a while.
well, Pat,
Well, no, that's why I had asked earlier, because I wasn't sure which ones I should be taking, or ones that, you don't need to really have, so.
Yeah.
Because I could do all of August, but I don't know if I need them all, so that's what I'm trying to figure out.
so to receive a certificate, a participant must take a total of 8 units. The 5 required units, which is the unit 100s, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, and any 3 elective units, 201 to 208. It is not required
To get your certificate.
to get your certificate. It is encouraged.
So anything beyond your certificate is really, you first should focus on getting your fundamental certificate.
And it also depends on your schedule, on their
Right.
schedule.
Right, so
And
that's
your
what I would say is you focus on getting that, and then after that, there are other things you can take that are really interesting courses, but
I'm sorry, a little confused, because like the only one I've done for certificate was this, one in the beginning, that's where it started, so
With the town. I can't.
I
remember.
mean, are all the ones
Oh, I know.
on here, on here, or is there other ones that I need to look up?
I don't know, I don't know what.
Did Joan go over with you, the MACC and their program and contacting them and setting up an account for you?
No, I mean, the only thing I heard about that you guys paid for this, and I wasn't sure if that's, what they all do, and then I just put my name in, or I wasn't really sure how this all worked.
Well,
How does it work? Do people,
at the last meeting, Joan took an action item, if I recall correctly, about just getting Pat,
yeah, but she's down.
familiarized it, right?
We can revisit because Kevin's new too. So
I mean, it would be great if everybody
The
had
oldest
that,
in the middle.
Right.
you know?
And we don't, yeah, we want to make sure if Pat wants to take the classes, that she can take the classes and,
Yeah,
you know, has the ability to. 'Cause
Right, and I
the town
do.
pays for it, so,
Yeah, I have one
Go for
for
it.
it, so,
yeah.
but yeah, if you don't know how, or if you don't have the account set up,
right, I
you
don't,
can't.
yeah.
Matt, is this something you could assist on?
Yeah, I believe, Jessica, you introduced Pat to Lindsay over email.
Yeah, I think I
Um,
sent an email like the day after our last meeting.
I know how I did it when I was first starting out is just you just email Lindsay with all the classes you want to take with the dates, and then she sets you up for them. And then she'll send you an invoice for the classes, and you can just send those to me, and I'll run them to the account. I think it's as simple as that, pretty much.
That would be great, I mean,
So
if they could do that.
maybe Matt, maybe you and Pat can connect and she can come in and you could go over the website with her and show her where to go and choose classes and assist her with this first part of the process.
Yeah, sure. That sounds great. We'll set something up. Mhm.
This is wonderful, thank you.
I think you can also call them.
Yeah, you can. They're really,
Yeah, I think there's a phone number on there.
So-
they're really helpful.
There is, I feel like the best place to start is once you guys are members for MACC. What's it called? Matt, help me out. The beginners training or whatever.
The Orion.
Orientation for new
Yeah.
conservation commissioners. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's a really good,
That's
broad,
cool, yeah.
non-technical overview of your role as the commissioner. So yeah, Matt, if you could check with Lindsay to get Pat and Kevin, and I guess Colby, if he hasn't done it yet too, their accounts registered so that they can take that orientation.
Right.
ASAP.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Sure, I'll shoot Lindsay an email.
Yeah, and then just follow up with them individually to just guide them along. I know you only have a short week, but
Yeah,
And do.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
thank you.
All right, items for discussion next meeting, sections 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the bylaw. And then hopefully everyone will be here in person. We can vote for officers. We'll just push it off.
What offers?
We have a public hearing.
Which one, like
So
chair?
I'm chair, Kobe's vice chair,
Vice
and
chair.
Joan is secretary.
Right, okay,
And every year, fiscal year, you're supposed to.
switch it up,
Right.
or at least revoke. We're not
Yes.
gonna switch it up, yeah. Okay,
James, may I ask something on that point?
Yes, sir.
Is this are we allowed to ask who is interested and willing to do it at this time, and who wants to do it?
good point.
So-
Why? You don't want to be have those awkward nominations? At the
No,
last
it's not
minute?
a matter of wanting or not wanting. It's just a time commitment for me.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah, I really have a lot of time to put a lot of extra time in outside of class here. So,
I'll say the vice chair is, in case I'm not here, you can call the meeting.
Yeah.
Secretary, she signed some stuff. She's supposed to read public notices or.
Yeah. I just want the best suited people.
That's a good question.
Yeah, do you want to be the vice chair? Colby?
Oh, I want to, but I have long days and long nights too. So I'm probably not the best fit person for it, just from being doing the research needed and that's all. Yeah, I have trouble making it to the site visits quite often as well. But I like it. I do want it.
What's the title?
Yeah. Sounds good.
I'm
But
fine continuing as the chair, just to keep things, but at the same time, if someone else wants to step up, I'm
Yeah,
not
right.
gonna say no.
Everybody's knocking on the door to be chair. No. You're doing a good job.
Yeah, and
Just did it for a year? Is that how long
No.
you've been doing it? 2 years?
No,
How long have you been chair?
about 2 minutes.
No way.
I don't think we've gone 4 months,
No.
maybe.
Yeah,
Really?
maybe about 1 month.
That you were chair?
Not yet, just about 4 months.
Really?
Not
Who's-
even.
Not
Who's chair
even,
before?
not
Just get
even.
broke in.
Who
Uh,
was chair before?
Jennifer Eaton.
no, she was vice chair. Jim.
Oh, Jim
Jimmy, yeah,
DeLorean,
Durarian.
Was
Was
chair.
for,
a day.
yeah.
Was Joan ever chair?
No,
No. Okay.
Um,
So you want to continue? You okay?
I'm fine with it, but
Okay.
we're not gonna vote on it tonight, but,
No, but it's good to know.
and if anyone wants to
No.
take the spot. So
No, no.
I just want to keep moving forward and keep things peaceful.
Keep moving forward, Jim.
So
So,
be a campaign or somebody to want to be chair,
so,
compete with you.
all right, 7.0, next meeting is Wednesday, August 10th, 7 PM. Board of Select Chamber, second floor, we held via virtual Zoom. Need a motion to,
motion to adjourn.
You beat me to it. Second?
Second, all in favor?
at 9:01, roll call vote,
Oh, yeah.
Linda Mack, yes?
James Gates, yes.
Emma Craver, absolutely.
Kevin, yes.
Colby,
Colby Streeter, yes.
feel better. Thank you, everyone.